Hello, hello. We are back. We are back. Half of the first day of the conference is finished, but we go further, and now it's time to talk about the navigations. So today we have not a speaker, we have a team of speakers, a team of Safa and Tasso. Please say hello. Please.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to ask you just one before I will mute. I want to ask you one question. How can you express your emotions and feelings right now, just in one word or two words, just or a sentence? What?
Yeah, let me go first.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm very happy to speak at Mobile Optimized conference with the tooling and with the everything, the preparation and stuff. Everything is looking super cool and smooth. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, me
Okay.
too. Exactly. Like my feeling is now excited. Also, yeah, it's a great conference, and also looking forward to the weekend. Also, to be honest.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, now I will mute. After the session, I'll remind our participant that after the session, we'll have 10 minutes of Q&A session where we will ask questions and we'll try to find the answers. Okay, so I will mute. I will leave you the stage. Please take it and rock the stage. Thank you.
Yeah, Tasso, you can start.
Hi everyone. This is Tasso. I work as an engineering manager at Delivery Hero, and we worked with Safa in the past in actually a couple of companies before, and I also have long years of Android background. Safa?
And this is Safa. After working as an Android engineer in companies of various size, I'm currently teaching Android development online. And I'm usually available via Twitter and tweet about software and Android dev related stuff. So go ahead and find me there. Cool. I think Tasso will start by navigation and multimodule apps.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago when we were working together at Wayfair Berlin office, we had an opportunity to start a brand new project. It was greenfield project, and we wanted to make everything like perfect and shiny. So we decided to use architecture components. At that time, it was also alpha version, very new. We started to go with that anyways. Basically, this talk is gonna very briefly talk about like what is Jetpack Navigation. After that, we will mostly talk about our experience, how our usage is evolved, and how we tried the navigation components to its extremes, basically. So first, what we want to talk about is how we use it in multi-module application. So starting a fresh application, of course, we wanted to start modularized. Actually, we had a lot of modules already written after 1 year, and navigation in highly modularized code bases is always a challenge. Safa, can you go to the next slide?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Jetpack Navigation is basically not just a library, but a plugin, like Gradle plugin, and also tooling, which means like a tight Android Studio integration. It supports activity, fragment, and dialog navigation out of the box. It's extensible. We will see how we extended it as well. And the IDE support is great. It supports a visualization of the navigations and how certain components are connected to the others. So to deep dive in how navigation component works, like Android team did a really great job. If you follow these links, the left one is general guidance, and the right link is a really good code lab. So let's go like what does multi-module apps mean for us? First of all, multi-module provides faster incremental compilation. Like after almost 2 years, the compilation time for us were like around 20-30 seconds still. Although we were using like big things like Dagger and data binding, even using those, we were able to keep fast compilation times. Working with like a big team, a better segregation of features is really good. You keep them separate and responsibility is more clear, and like you can build them in a way that you have no dependency across features. This also contributes to the faster build time. And there is this dynamic delivery feature recently introduced in Android. It's very cool. It's kind of like a microservices delivery type of structure for Android, where you are able to distribute parts of the application separately. So basically, in navigation, let's imagine we have fragment A. By the way, in this talk, we will assume you have single activity architecture with fragments. So that's what we had from the beginning. So imagine, but it applies in others too, lots of things. So imagine you have fragment A, you want to navigate B, and the A is in the module A and the B is the module B. Does it really mean that you have to depend on the module B? If you have to depend, as I mentioned, that creates coupling in terms of like dependencies between teams and responsibilities. It makes it more difficult because any change in module B could break something on module A if you accidentally use something that you shouldn't have. Plus, in terms of build speed, again, this is a reason because if you do this, you have to wait compilation of module B until the build can continue with A. Basically, how do we do this with navigation components? So we will see how the XML structures work with navigation component in the next slide, but basically works with XMLs. Which means like it kind of provides flexibility in that regard to break the dependency between these modules. So we tried a couple of options. We will go through those and see the pros and cons. The first one we tried like as a naive option is the beginning of the project. So we put everything in a common module. That means we have one navigation graph that is accessible everywhere. It was like really convenient to speed up development. It was really easy. But the cons is that the Android Studio design view was not working. And Safa, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, as you can see here, like this is the XML, and it's the IDs defined here are immediately available everywhere, which means that you can just navigate to the other fragment item detail here without depending that fragment itself. But since it is in the common module, you see like some of the integrations do not work. But Android uses reflection to create activities and fragments. Navigation component also depends on that, so everything is actually working just fine. Next slide. So the other one we tried is just sharing IDs. So we created a separate file just to share IDs, not the navigation itself. So we moved the navigation structure, the XML, to the app level where it actually knows everything. So this design view and all the other stuff started to work fine. But since we have IDs separated and shared everywhere, we were still able to navigate to other fragments just fine. So the shared IDs look like this one. You just define IDs in an XML, and then you use them in the navigation XML file. So in the navigation XML file, the usage looks just fine. You have all the references. Safa, next slide. Yeah, here you can see everything is green, and in the next slide, in the Android Studio UI, everything just works fine, all the connections and the UI. So this is actually the pattern that we settled at the end. But there's another option. Maybe it is even better for like bigger teams where you really want to separate these responsibilities. So navigation component supports nested graphs. So what you can do is that you can define multiple graphs. So each feature will have its own graph. So this means like one column maybe is that you have to maintain too many XML files everywhere. What you do is that you merge them in the app level. So if you go to the next slide, as you can see, like a classic include tag that you can use also in Android layouts. You use that, and it includes the navigation from the other modules. And yeah, this is it. Basically, these are like some ways that we like experimented how this can be done. Another one that I want to mention is if you use side menu, hamburger menu on the left, or a button bar navigation, which is pretty common, they actually support this out of the box. Just like, you know, both of these systems are working with menu.xml. In the menu.xml, if you keep the same IDs that you have in the Navigation.xml, for example, task fragment, so this will work automatically just by keeping the same names, same IDs. Navigation component will automatically navigate to those when the user clicks those items in the menu. So that means like that's really easy for modularization. Those do not have to know each other, and everything just works. One thing that like what else was a challenge. So of course, when starting a new screen, you need inputs, right? For example, item detail usually requires item ID. So there is safe argument plugins. It was like all of these were alpha stage. Safe argument, I'm not sure even if it was released at that time. So we didn't try. We didn't try, to be honest. So we will not go into safe argument plugins. So safe argument plugins, basically how it works, you define also the input in the XML and it code generates for you. I mean, we of course depend on Dagger code generation, and since we had experience before, we were using data binding, but we were also skeptical of adding more code generation into the code base because it is making it slower. And if you have a modularization, you have to add this code generation into all modules, right? We didn't do it, so we keep it simple and stupid. So this is an approach we took, and we really like it. So instead of sending the arguments one by one, you know, traditionally on Android, activities and fragments are working with bundle, and that's kind of like key value structure where you define the key. So even for things like this Boolean, which is really annoying. I wish I don't have such a Boolean flag as an input, but like, you know, business requires it. So usually what you do is to define separate keys for this. So you need to share those keys, etc. So what we do is that we don't do that. So we define a data class, put parseable in it, and it's great because everything is named. So you cannot make any mistake. When you want to configure, when you want to open, you just call this and you can use named arguments. It's very readable. And when we are calling, we have this really cool extension function where we always use the same key argument, and it's an implementation detail. So we put this here for you to see, but when the developers are using it, they don't even deal with these arguments. It's always one parameter, which is a data class, and in in the Dagger structure, this is automatically resolved and injected into the required places, like for example vmodal, when they want to reach the ID. So even that level, you don't deal with the bundle and arguments, etc. So that worked really well for us. The next slide is about dynamic delivery. So I will not go into details here too. The guidance, like the documentation here, is really good as well. But I wanted to mention anyway because it's really important for modularization, and they provide a really cool functionality here. You know, with dynamic delivery, when you want to navigate to another feature, that feature maybe is not even installed on the device. How would you navigate? First, you want to download and install that feature. There are APIs for this, but if you have to deal with that all the time, it is not really easy. What it does, like what this library supports, is that you still navigate with an ID, very simple, and then it automatically downloads and installs the features for you. And for custom UIs like this, you see in the slides, they also provide functionality which becomes more complex, but that's okay. The default functionality is pretty simple. My last thing that I want to talk about is just like another interesting use case, tracking, right? Tracking analytics is always annoying. So it goes into your code base like a disease and like spreads everywhere, like all developers hate it. So we wanted to have a more creative solution here. So Firebase actually has this feature that says automatic screen tracking. You cannot even disable this easily. It is really annoying. And in a single activity architecture, which is also suggested by Google nowadays, this is useless. It only gives you like main activity, nothing else. So we ended up like the following approach. Navigation component has this really cool callback that's called on destination change listener. So we encapsulated all of these in a class called screen detector. And this is registered only one time. So this is not something that we instantiate everywhere. It is only one. And no other place knows about this. So what we do is that we register destination change listener and automatically do screen view tracking. So for that, we of course have need a mapping from destination to like a human readable names that is gonna be used in analytics. So we had this mapping, and of course, all this kind of stuff is always problematic when you add a new screen because the developer may forget about this. So we have this unknown else condition here. We log into this, and we have a mechanism where we detect and fix these if we forget. You could also make it so that it actually crashes while development, so that you fix that early as well. But this worked quite well for us, and it was super easy to track new screens.
Thank you, Tasso. Now I want to continue with responsive dialogues with Custom Navigator, but I don't see the slide. Let me redo. Can you see the slide changed? Tasso?
Now I have the slide. I see, but now I see you.
Okay. I think there is some technical challenge here. I cannot change the slides. So let me stop sharing and restart very quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Can you see it now? No. I was keeping a copy of the live presentation at hand, so let me switch to it just in case. I was keeping it. Let me share my screen instead. Okay. Sorry for this inconvenience. I think you can see it now, right? Cool. So, okay. In one of the case studies, we had to implement this kind of navigation where we need to go to modals, open fragments, dialogues, but differently. They need to be shown differently on tablets and phones. The product come up with this idea. The product team came up with this idea of showing dialogues and.
Safa, it looks like it is visible, but very small, like our picture.
Okay, let me try to again try to share it. Well, can you help us here a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have a PDF version? Yeah, I remember that you have it.
Yeah. We were there. That one.
Can you try it? Yeah. Can you try to switch to another slide?
So I think you're controlling it.
Yeah, so I am in the online channel. Okay, so I can see it in the online version as well, but it is still very small. So the big part of the screen is just black for some reason.
But I can see the normal presentation, so I see the whole screen of your slide.
Yeah. For me it also works.
So in our speaker session, it works, but if you go to the online like live stream, it is the big part of the screen is black.
Let me try to do it again, and if so, let's not lose much time actually.
Okay.
Because we have less than 8 minutes, about 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Retry it. Okay. So I think I'm being kicked out of the session right now. So I will connect if I can. There, I got an error.
Sorry once again for this technical problems, but yeah, it's usual. It's normal. It's on an event, so it can happen. So no problem. Don't worry. I
think it works now. No?
Oh, great. Yeah, it works. Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Good.
Okay. Thank you, Pavel, for helping.
I don't thank you very much. Sorry. Okay.
No worries. So let me come again. So I want to talk about one of the fun challenges we faced during the project. The app was a tablet-first app, but we were also fully supporting phone layouts. When the product team introduced dialogues to the UI, they wanted dialogues to show as a modal on tablets and as full screen on phones. The dialogues were more than simple messages, actually. They were login dialogues and other functional parts. So we decided to use fragments. And since we were using fragments, it automatically became a part of our navigation mechanism. We wanted to handle this new custom logic of showing dialogues in custom forms on tablets and on phones without explicitly including this logic to all places we show a dialogue. We also wanted to make this feature of showing dialogues a first-class citizen of our navigation architecture. The end result was satisfying to our eyes. It was something like this. Normally, this was a GIF, but because it's a PDF, you cannot see. Actually, what we could do is just replace that fragment tag into a modal fragment tag so that it automatically become a modal fragment so that we could navigate this differently on phones and tablets. And this is our navigation graph XML, and converting a fragment into a modal fragment was actually that simple. When we wanted to show this fragment, we were just navigating to it using the navigate method Tasso just showed us. And also, let me show you how we built such a system. The first was building a custom navigator. In Jetpack Navigation library, each destination tag, like an activity tag or a fragment tag, for example, they're declared by a navigator. So when the navigation library is instructed to navigate into a specific destination, it finds the corresponding navigator searching by the tag. To introduce a new tag, we created a new navigator, and that is, as you see, a modal fragment navigator class. Whenever we navigate to a modal fragment marked destination, navigation library will give our navigator full control to do the job of transitioning to that destination. We cheated a little bit, I have to admit, and studied how the fragment navigator inside the library works and built a similar navigator with some modifications. The modifications were to add some business logic, like shoving fragments with different settings on phones and tablets, and ensuring there is only one modal fragment in the fragment backstack at a time, so that there were no multiple models visible or like stacked up. In the highlighted part, you can see that we inflate a modal fragment and sending the class name of the original fragment as an argument. The second step is to add the new navigator into the now controller using navigation provider add navigator function. Something to note here is that you need to inflate your navigation graph manually. Don't use the XML attributes, because if you don't do it, you will have some problems and bugs. So you need to use the manual inflation if you want everything to work without a hiccup. And that is how we built the custom navigator. As you remember, in the navigator, we were navigating into a fragment called modal fragment. So let's see what is it, okay? The modal fragment is actually an invisible wrapper, and it inflates the given fragment inside as a child fragment. And the layout of the container that it inflates the child fragment is different on tablets and phones. As you see on the screen right now, we have multiple fragment modal XMLs defined differently, designed differently for tablets and phones, and that was how it was showing this child fragment differently on phones and tablets. And this was how also we built an extension that provides a custom behavior into our navigation architecture. It was fun and robust and encapsulated well so that it wasn't visible to the rest of the code base. Also, another case we want to mention before our time runs out is the nested navigation architecture we built. It's different than what Tasso just showed us, nested navigation graphs, because we wanted to navigate into child fragments. So we had this, we have this fragment, which is like a container, and we want other fragments, the child fragments, to be displayed in this container in the parent one. And we want to show them one at a time. So it made perfect sense and a perfect use case of using a child navigation structure. When you're building enterprise apps that are optimized for tablets, you need to show a lot on the screen, like a dashboard with a good utilization of the screen space. And that was what we did actually. Also, here you can see that the usage. Okay, let me show you the usage first, then we can look into the implementation details. When we wanted to navigate to a sibling destination, we were using the first usage, okay, navigate, and the ID of the sibling destination. If we wanted to navigate a destination which is in the root level, we were using the second usage, and you can see that there is added a second argument, which is a now controller identifier, and we were feeding it with a root now controller. And if we want to navigate to a child destination, then we were using the third one, which we give the ID of the containing now host fragment. And this is how we did it. Actually, we were now host fragment. Actually, in the fragment containing the others, we inflated another now host fragment into a container, and we had this sealed class to enumerate possible navigation strategies. You already saw these three, the usages of them. I'm going quickly because we are already running out of time. And we had, lastly, we created a navigation helper, and this made it easy for us to create a unified API for navigating from A to B and still keep the nested structure. So this was how we were able to move from A to B, whether in its root level or whether it's in the child level. Another big benefit of using this unified API is the testability of it, because you can see that there is open for testing annotation on top. This allowed us to make the whole thing more testable. Tasso is planned actually to talk about it, but I'm not sure if we still have time. So Pavel, do we still have time to continue?
Yeah, we can take time from the break, so don't worry, you can take.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can.
so then it's yours.
Yeah, I can go pretty quick with this. So, like, basically what we want to highlight here is that the navigation component supported us with testing a lot as well. So in unit testing, for example, was very easy. So in our architecture, for example, here we are testing a v-binding layer. So we assume a state is pushed by the v model, which is like a certain item is clicked. And what we expect is that the navigation, here we are mocking it, and then actually we don't mock a lot. But only for external components and things like navigation, we are using mocking. And here what we do is that we just expect to navigate to a certain item. Here, as you can see, we even validate the input as well. So here we use like a really good data class, and looks really nice and understandable as well. What I'm going to talk about most is the UI tests, actually. So that was interesting. In UI test, we use this fragment factory. This is also pretty new. So what we do is that we use also fragment testing, which comes with launch fragment in container. So this is really good because it helps us to test the fragment in isolation, which means it's an isolation, so it doesn't have navigation component attached. So what we do is that we use this custom fragment factory, and in the next slide we see that what we do in the factory is simply do an observer, and in the onCreate lifecycle, we again here put a mock now controller. So that means that in the UI test, the screen is all in isolation. It does not navigate to other screen, but we can still verify that navigation will work just fine by verifying that the navigation methods on in the mocked now controller is called. One thing that we did interesting here is also by getting the resource ID, we were able to provide a custom and more readable error message, because navigation is with ID, and by default you only see IDs in the screen. It's just a number, and you have no idea what that number is. So with this trick, you are able to reserve back to the resource entity name, which is like gives the name of the fragment. And we basically use it like this. I again showed the implementation details, but the usage is like the goal for us is to keep the usage super simple. This is how you launch the fragment and verify that it navigates to another screen. Basically, that is it. So, Safa, do you want to conclude?
Yeah, so it was a fun challenge for us where we went in extremes of Jetpack navigation, and this talk was all about showing our experience with it and showing our use cases. It was a good experience for me, if you ask me, because it was really extensible and we could build so many custom things with it. And at the end, it made the whole code more readable, more sustainable, and more testable. So it was a big okay for me. And I will keep it short because we ran out of time. I think Tasso has an announcement. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. So my team is hiring for iOS and Android. I hope it's fine. So I put these QR codes in an online conference. I'm not sure which is the best way to share it, but please reach me out also if you are interested. We have a lot of openings in my team. I would like to work with you all. So we have questions also.
Yes. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was nice. Even if with these technical problems.
Yeah, it's happened all the time.
Yeah, it's normal. It's totally normal. So don't worry. Yeah, we have basically, as I see, it's very hot topic for our audience. There is like 3 different questions, and let's rank it. Yeah, the first one: conditional navigation is still a navigation component. Using 2 activities is still a very common practice. Example: 1 flow for the login and 1 flow of the home flow. What do you think for this use case? Better with a single activity or multiple?
Tasso, you can see the question, by the way, in the right-hand side. There is a QA tab. Just in case you want to read it again. For us, we just went by 1 activity, 1 single activity. Actually, we had 2, but the second one is not for navigation purposes. It was a debug options activity where we hide it in the build altogether when we go live on production. It was for development purposes. We were just like playing with the settings of the app. There was 1 other launcher for it. But other than that, the whole app, the whole production app was consisted of 1 activity. And it was a big activity, actually. Like it was doing a lot of things. Like the application was a rich application, I mean. For us, it was good. I don't know, like
I think
it was a challenge.
I think the nested navigation part you talked about is related to this. So with that nested navigation structure, we were able to handle this. So for example, a login or another flow might have sub-components or like child fragments, which we were able to encapsulate under a certain flow.
Yeah. Okay. And also the second question is also related to the same thing, like 1 activity versus multiple activities. But here, in the context, the asker also asked about the nav graph and nav bar. So I think the previous answer also answers this a little bit. For us, it went really well. Like 1 single activity using a nested navigation structure. It was good, and we were also using a navigation bar, a button bar. There were some problems with it, like not problems, but there were some ugly parts about it. But it doesn't mean that it's an obligation to have ugly parts when you use button. Now with single activity, it was like something we could improve, actually. But yeah, so I still say 1 activity.
Okay. So I will mark it.
Yeah.
Mark it as resolved. Okay. And the last one, it's about from
Deep
Linux.
links.
Yeah, yeah. Can you try to answer it?
So our application, like we mentioned, is greenfield. Why? It was because an internal application used in the company for employees. So we really didn't have deep links. So we didn't dive into that. We considered it, but like using if we had a use case for deep links already, I think it's a really good idea to use it, because with deep links, navigation component also has a really good deep link support. And with deep links, you can also achieve that modularization, because again, using deep links, you will navigate to another screen without knowing which screen that is, and the navigation component will handle it for you.
Okay.
Also, there's one part of the question, the same question. It was about multiple backstacks, and I can say that with the approach we took, we had multiple backstacks because we had multiple now host fragments. Each of them was keeping their own backstacks. So let's say we are in a child fragment, pressing on back button and running on back pressed. We'll go back to the previous child fragment, and after finishing up the stack, we could go to the main navigation. So we could do that with this nested navigation approach, and it worked for us.
Okay, great. There are so many questions, so many answers. Yeah, we run out of time. Yeah, but still we can continue our discussion in the chat, in the conversation chat, this Spati chat later after the next presentation. So we can go after the break on a big kind of final close of this first day. So we can go there and answer the question, and continue also discussion in the public chat. So it's not a problem. If you have any questions to the guys, so you can ask them there as well. So no problems as well. Okay. I want to thank you very much for your presentation, talk, and all the answers that we have right now. I hope that our audience get more closer to the navigation in Android, because it's, as I see, it's very hot. So yeah, so thank you one more time, and I will end this session right now. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
We have a countdown. Cool.
Yeah.
Goodbye in 2, 1.